So I'm getting ready to measure out and approximate how much new fabric I will need for my chair. So what I've done is I've marked out with masking tape on the ground the size of a piece 1 yard of fabric. So upholstery fabric comes anywhere from 54 inches to 60 inches wide, but I am going with 54 inches for my purposes. So I measured out 54 inches by 36 inches rectangularly on the ground, and I'm gonna lay out the old pieces of fabric to estimate how much new fabric I will need. So let me show you. So you can see I marked out on the ground with tape 54 inches. Sorry, I can't, there's a glare on the phone. 54 inches by 36 inches all the way around. And that is approximately the size of 1 yard of upholstery fabric. And I'm going to arrange my pieces in here. Now, just one note, you are gonna want to order more fabric than just the old scraps of material, because you will need extra fabric to completely cover, and then you'll trim. And if things were torn, they're not gonna be exactly the same size. So we'll talk about that after we arrange all these pieces. So I have laid out some of my pieces in my 1 yard of upholstery fabric. And you can see I left some breathing room around the pieces. That will help account for just the actual size we will need, because you'll need some breathing room to be able to staple and pull it taut and everything. So also, I don't know if you can see, but I labeled each piece as I took it off. So like, this is the front side of the chair back. I know that's like an oxymoron, but that's the front side. This was an arm, so I labeled it arm. Didn't label this one, but I know that it came off the top of an arm. So you can see I arranged those like that. Another thing to take into consideration when you're laying out the old pieces is if you are going to use a pattern that has a correct orientation to it. So if you're going to be working with a pattern that has a distinct like up and down, like a top and bottom, and you're going to need to get it straight and everything, make sure you're arranging the pieces in your taped off area so that the pieces are correctly oriented on the pattern. I'm going to be using fabric that it doesn't matter, so I'm not worrying about which direction I place the pieces. But if you're having to get pieces the right size and shape, the right orientation of the pattern, you're probably going to need more fabric than if you just have pieces that don't matter which direction they're going and you can like squish them in a little bit more. So I just took the cover off this bottom cushion, and the insert for the bottom cushion is completely broken open and feathers are flying everywhere.
Whoa!
Whoa. So I may just throw this out and replace it with just some foam padding. It looks pretty old and stained too, so I think that's probably just our best bet. The other thing I could potentially do would be to like take all the feathers and stuffing and stuff out of this and wash it and then make a new cushion cover and restuff it, but that's really not what I want to do. So I think I'm just going to end up using some thick upholstery foam and just making a cushion out of that. So the pieces I laid out added up to 6 yards, but we're also going to need extra for our piping. So I saved all the piping that I ripped off, and I'm just going to roughly measure it to see what it turns out to be. So I just measured out all the piping and I came up with 16 yards of piping. So I will probably make sure that I have at least 18 yards on hand just to be on the safe side. So the pieces I laid out came to about 6 yards of upholstery fabric, and the average estimate for a wingback chair is about 7 yards. So I was gonna tack on an extra yard of fabric anyway for piping and just extra, just in case. So that would amount to 7 yards of upholstery fabric. So that's my amount of fabric I'm gonna order. I also need at least 17 yards of piping. I might go with 18, just to be on the safe side. And then batting, I'm gonna need enough to go under all the fabric. So I will also make sure I have at least 7 yards of batting as well. And I can show you what that is too if you're unfamiliar with it. The cardboard from the chair I'm going to reuse, and I think I'm just gonna go ahead and reuse the foam as well because it's in fine shape, and it's one less thing I have to purchase and cut to size, so I'm just gonna reuse it. I put all of the old fabric pieces in a garbage bag, and I'm just going to tie them up and set them aside until I am completely done with the project. I like to keep all the old pieces of fabric until I'm completely done, just in case I need to reference the size or shape of something, or I need to remind myself how something was put together and the pictures aren't cutting it. You just never know. I mean, it doesn't hurt to just wrap them up in a bag and set them aside. So all the old batting can be thrown away, the old piping can be thrown away. I'm gonna keep the foam pieces and the cardboard that I took off in a separate bag. Yeah, so that's this step.